"You speak of humans as if they are strangers," he said softly. "But I have studied them. I have walked on their earth. I have spoken to their leaders, their soldiers, their children. Do you know what they are?" The chamber grew quiet. "They are survivors," the elder continued. "Their history is filled with fire and ruin. They have fought wars that scarred their world, and yet they rose again. When nature struck them down, when empires tried to control them, when even their own kind tore them apart, they endured. That is who they are. When pressed, when cornered, when denied hope, they do not surrender. They build, they adapt, and when they rise stronger." His words lingered heavy and sharp. For a long moment, no one spoke. Delegates shifted uneasily in their seats. Some remembered the rumors of Earth's wars. Some remembered the stubbornness of human traders and colonists who refused to break under pressure. Finally, the Vaith delegate hissed, "So you say we should do nothing? Wait until they grow bold enough to challenge us all?" The elder's light dimmed, his face weary. "I say you should be careful. If you make them your enemy, they will never stop fighting. And if this ship is truly theirs, then perhaps, just perhaps, none of us can stop them." The chamber fell into silence once more. For the first time in centuries, the Galactic Council had no clear answer. Outside, beyond the windows of the Grand Station, the stars seemed quieter than before. It was as if even the universe itself was holding its breath, and somewhere in the dark a human ship waited. On Earth, the people did not see themselves as conquerors. They did not hear the whispers of gods or devils that the galaxy spoke of. To them, the great black ship was not a weapon of terror, but a shield born from desperation. For centuries, humanity had struggled to survive in the cold reach of space. Their colonies were fragile, small dots of light in endless darkness. They traded with other species, but the trade was never fair. Larger empires demanded heavy taxes. Raiders and pirates struck human freighters, and the Council looked away. When colonies begged for protection, no fleets came. When families cried out for justice, their voices were ignored. Humanity was alone. And so, when the galaxy refused to help, humans turned inward. They remembered who they were, a race that had risen from the ashes of its own wars, a race that had walked through fire and learned to keep walking. Pain had shaped them, but pain had not broken them. It was in the dark shipyards of Luna and Mars that the Revenant was born. Scientists, engineers, and dreamers worked in secret. They did not follow the rules of the Council, nor the warnings of alien scholars who said, "This is forbidden." Humans had heard forbidden before. They had heard impossible. Those words only fueled them. Piece by piece, the ship took form. It was not beautiful. It was not meant to inspire awe. It was meant to survive. Its hull was built from alloys no alien dared to forge. Its engines were silent, bending the laws of movement. Its defenses were not shields, but something stranger, something born from experiments others had abandoned in fear. And at the heart of it all stood Captain Elias Kane. He was not a man of great fame, not a politician, not a scientist, not even a hero. He was a soldier who had seen too much loss. He had watched colonies burn. He had seen children starve on worlds forgotten by the Council. And he had sworn one promise: humanity would never kneel again. On the bridge of the Revenant, Kane stood quietly, staring at the stars beyond the viewport. Around him, his crew worked with precision, their faces set with determination. They knew what the galaxy called them now: monsters, devils, a race that should not hold such power. But none of them cared. To them, this ship was not a terror. It was home. It was hope. Kane spoke softly, his voice calm but filled with steel. "They will come for us. Not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon. And when they do, we must be ready. This ship was not made for war. It was made to keep our people alive, to make sure Earth and every child born under its sun will have a future." The crew nodded. They were not conquerors. They were guardians. And yet, in their hearts, each of them understood the truth. If the galaxy forced their hand, the Revenant would fight. And it would win. Outside, in the darkness of space, the ship drifted like a shadow. Its edges bent the starlight, as though the universe itself was uneasy around it. To others, it was a nightmare. But to humanity, it was proof of who they were: builders, survivors, dreamers who refused to be broken. The galaxy might see a monster, but to humans, the Revenant was simply survival given shape. And Captain Elias Kane, standing tall on its bridge, carried a truth the galaxy had forgotten. Humanity never asked for war, but humanity was ready for it. The galaxy had been holding its breath, waiting to see what humanity would do. But it was not the humans who moved first. It was the Kreth Empire. The Kreth were an old power, proud and merciless. Their fleets were vast, their armies countless. For centuries they had bullied weaker species, carving out colonies and demanding tribute. To them, fear was a currency and war was simply business. The whispers of a human ship stronger than fleets were unacceptable. To let it stand was to show weakness. And so they gathered 200 ships, war cruisers, carriers, and dreadnoughts. It was a force meant to overwhelm entire star systems. Their leaders laughed as they prepared. "Humans are children playing with fire," one commander sneered. "We will crush their little world and take their ship as our prize." The fleet moved with confidence, cutting through space, their banners glowing in crimson light. Their target, the Sol system, humanity's heart. On Earth, people watched the skies with fear. Reports of the approaching fleet flooded in. Some prayed, some wept, some clenched their fists. For many, this was the end. Humanity had been small too long, and now the great predators had come to finish the job. But on the bridge of the Revenant, Captain Elias Kane stood ready. His voice carried steady calm as he addressed his crew. "They think they can break us," he said. "They believe we will kneel like so many others. But today we show them what it means to stand." The Kreth fleet arrived at the edge of the Sol system. 200 warships lit the dark with power. Their commanders ordered an immediate assault. They would burn Earth, seize Mars, and end humanity in one swift strike. The battle began. The Kreth fired first. Waves of plasma beams cut through space, bright enough to blind sensors. Hundreds of missiles streaked toward the Revenant. Dreadnought cannons unleashed devastating blasts, each enough to shatter moons. But when the fire reached the human ship, it vanished. Plasma scattered like sparks on glass. Missiles slowed, crumbled, and dissolved into nothing. The cannons roared, but their energy folded back into silence. The Revenant drifted untouched, black and calm like a shadow that refused to be burned. On Kreth bridges, commanders shouted in disbelief. "Increase fire. All units, focus your weapons." They obeyed. More light, more fury, more death hurled at the silent ship. And still, nothing. Then the Revenant answered. It made no sound. No flash. No warning. Invisible waves spread outward, gentle as ripples on water. But when they touched the Kreth ships, everything ended. One cruiser's hull folded in on itself like paper crushed in a hand. Another broke apart, its pieces scattering in silence. Entire carriers froze, lights dying, their crews screaming as systems shut down. Ship after ship fell. Dozens, then scores, then hundreds. In 12 minutes, the great Kreth fleet was gone. Where once 200 ships had shone like stars, now only wreckage drifted, silent and broken. On Earth, people wept as the reports came in, not in despair but in awe. For the first time in centuries, humanity was safe. For the first time, the galaxy had struck at them. And failed. Across the stars, the news spread. Whole empires trembled. Rulers who had once laughed at human weakness sat in silence. Soldiers whispered the tale with shaking voices. An empire's fleet destroyed in minutes. And everywhere, the same words were spoken again. The humans have become death. The balance of the galaxy was shattered. The age of fear had begun. The destruction of the Kreth fleet shook the galaxy like thunder. 200 warships, proud and unstoppable, had vanished in minutes. No one could deny the truth anymore. Humanity, once ignored and mocked, had become the storm every empire feared. Fear spread faster than light. On distant worlds, governments panicked. Fleets pulled back from human borders. Trade routes collapsed overnight. Entire colonies whispered the same words again and again. The humans shouldn't have ships like that. On Kreth homeworlds, there was mourning and rage. Their leaders had promised victory. Instead, they received silence from their fleets and drifting wreckage across the stars. Statues of their emperors were torn down by angry crowds. Even the proud hunters of the Kreth felt something they had never felt before. Helplessness. But it was not only fear that grew. In hidden corners of the galaxy, oppressed races listened to the news with wide eyes. For centuries, they had lived under the boots of stronger empires, their voices silenced, their people enslaved. Now they saw a different story. Humanity, small and weak like them, had stood against giants. And won. The galaxy was old. Stars were born, burned brightly, and died in silence. Across that endless ocean of light, thousands of species had risen, built their empires, and carved their names into history. Some were wise and patient, some cruel and hungry, but all had one thing in common. They believed they understood the limits of the universe. But then came the whispers. At first, they were only rumors carried by frightened traders and wandering explorers. A shadow had been seen at the edge of human space, a strange vessel that moved in ways no ship should. It was not a warship of known design, nor a civilian craft, nor even a pirate's creation cobbled together from stolen parts. No one knew what it was. The stories spread from one system to another, growing darker with each telling. Captains of alien fleets spoke in hushed voices, afraid to admit what they had witnessed. One captain swore he saw a ship of black metal, sharp-edged and endless, drifting without engines yet gliding faster than light. Another whispered of weapons that never fired, yet enemies around it fell in silence as if struck by death itself. The galaxy had known fear before. Empires had risen with terrible weapons, super weapons that burned worlds and silenced stars. But those had names, explanations, reasons. They could be fought or bargained with or destroyed in time. This was different. The whispers said the ship was human. That was impossible, many argued. Humans were young, barely centuries into galactic travel. Their colonies were small, scattered across fragile trade routes. They were known more for their stubbornness than their power. They had spirit, yes, but they had no great fleets, no advanced weapons, no ancient wisdom. "They cannot have built such a thing," muttered a Vaith merchant, trembling as he retold the tale in a smoky cantina. "They should not have such power, not them, not humans." Yet the rumors would not die. They spread faster than light, carried by terrified survivors who swore they had seen the impossible. A Zalari scout ship returned from the edge of human space, its hull scarred, its crew silent. When its captain was questioned, his eyes stared into nothing. His voice shook as he whispered, "It looked at us." Those words spread like poison. What did he mean? Ships did not look. Ships did not think. And yet he insisted whatever that vessel was. It had turned toward them, and in that moment, he had felt like prey before a predator. Around the galaxy, fear took root. In council chambers of mighty empires, leaders argued in panic. In crowded marketplaces, traders spoke the words with trembling lips. In quiet homes, families listened to broadcasts with dread. The same phrase was repeated everywhere, from the lowest laborer to the highest ruler. Humans shouldn't have ships like that, and yet they did. The galaxy shuddered with unease. The balance of power was fragile, held together by old treaties and silent threats. But now, one small race, once overlooked, once dismissed as weak, was at the center of a storm. Some species laughed nervously, calling the rumors nothing but ghost stories. Others prepared their fleets, unwilling to take the chance, and some simply prayed that they would never see the black ship appear in their skies. But in the darkness between stars, the vessel drifted still, silent, patient, watching, and the whispers grew louder. The Zalari were hunters by nature. Their ships were sharp and cruel, built for speed and destruction. Across the centuries, they had raided countless colonies and left burning wreckage in their wake. To them, fear was a weapon sharper than any blade. So when a patrol fleet of the Zalari found the human ship near the edge of a dying star, they felt no fear at first. It was alone. It was silent. To them, it was prey that had wandered too far from its nest. The captain of the patrol fleet, Admiral Tarek, stood tall on the bridge of his flagship. His spines glowed faintly in pride as he watched the strange vessel appear on his view screen. It floated without visible engines, black as the void itself. Its shape was wrong. Too smooth in places, too jagged in others, as if reality itself did not want to touch it. Tarek laughed, his voice harsh. "A human experiment gone wrong. Tear it apart. Let us bring their broken steel back as a trophy." The fleet obeyed. Dozens of Zalari ships formed a circle around the black vessel. Plasma lances charged, glowing bright enough to paint the dead star in light. The order was given and the first volley was fired. But the shots never landed. The beams stretched across space, then bent away, scattering like water poured onto glass. Missiles slowed as if time itself betrayed them. One by one, they crumbled into dust before reaching their target. The bridge of Tarek's ship fell silent. Officers stared at their screens in disbelief. Impossible, one hissed. Fire again, Trek roared. More plasma, more torpedoes, more fury. All of it vanished like rain in the desert. And then, the human ship turned. No engines roared, no weapons lit up, but somehow every Zilari felt it. The vessel shifted and its faceless front aimed toward them. For the first time in his long career, Admiral Turek felt a coldness in his chest. The hunters had become the hunted. One by one, the Zilari ships began to die. Not in fire, not in explosions. Instead, their lights flickered out. Power vanished. Engines failed. Crews screamed into comms before their voices were cut off. Ships drifted, lifeless like toys abandoned in space. Trek's claws dug into the command chair. He could not understand. No weapons were fired. No heat, no sound, no signal. And yet his fleet was being unmade. On the view screen, the black ship grew closer. For a heartbeat, Turek swore he saw something. Shapes within the shadows of its hull, patterns that moved like eyes staring directly into him. It sees us, he whispered, his voice cracking. He gave the order to retreat, though he knew it was hopeless. His flagship struggled to break away, but by some cruel mercy its engines held. He watched with horror and shame as the rest of his fleet drifted dead into the void. By chance or design, his ship escaped. When the survivors returned to Zilari space, they were broken. Officers trembled as they spoke, unable to explain what had happened. Only Admiral Turek found the strength to describe it. It looked at us, he said, voice hollow. It didn't fire. It didn't move. It only looked. And we were nothing. His words spread through the stars like wildfire. The mighty Zilari, feared predators of the galaxy, had been reduced to prey in a single encounter. Whole fleets whispered of the tale. Captains refused to travel near human borders, and the rumor grew stronger. The humans had a ship that defied weapons, a ship that turned hunters into shadows, a ship that should not exist, and the galaxy trembled, for now the whispers were no longer rumor. They were truth. The Galactic Council was the heart of the known universe. In a grand chamber carved into the core of a massive station, delegates from hundreds of species gathered beneath a dome of shining glass that overlooked the stars. It was a place built for peace, for reason, for the steady hand of politics. But on that day, the chamber was filled not with calm debate but with fear. The story of the Zilari defeat had spread faster than fire in dry grass. An entire fleet of hunters, destroyed without a single human shot fired. Ships dead, crews lost, and a captain who returned broken in mind and spirit. The tale could not be denied, for Admiral Turek himself had testified. His words echoed in every corridor. It looked at us, and we were nothing. Now, the council demanded answers. The chamber roared with voices. The humans have broken the balance of the galaxy, shouted the Vaith delegate, her scaled skin shimmering with anger. They are a young race, reckless, unwise. This ship must be destroyed before it spreads terror further. No, cried the Solari elder, his voice soft yet firm. His body glowed faintly with the light of his species. You do not understand what you ask. If we strike without cause, we invite war. And if the humans truly wield this kind of power, then war will mean our end. End, sneered a towering Jernak, his armor clanking as he pounded the floor with a fist. You speak as if they are gods. They are humans, fragile creatures of flesh and bone. Their colonies are small, their history short. They should not have such ships. If they do, then someone has given them forbidden knowledge. Whispers spread at those words. Forbidden knowledge. Dark science. Things left buried by older civilizations. Could it be true? Had humans uncovered something that no one else dared to touch? A frail diplomat, thin and insect-like, clicked his mandibles nervously. If the humans keep this weapon, every empire will fall. Do we wait for them to strike? Or do we unite and remove the threat now before it is too late? The chamber fell into heated argument. Voices rose, tails lashed, claws scraped, and eyes glowed with fear. For centuries, the council had kept balance between empires with careful treaties and shared power. But now, a single small race threatened to shake the galaxy apart. In the middle of the storm of voices, the Solari elder rose again. His glowing eyes swept across the chamber. On slave worlds of the Vaith, workers whispered the name of the Revenant in secret, their chains feeling lighter. On mining colonies ruled by the Jernak, rebels painted the outline of a black ship on walls, a symbol of hope. Even on planets far beyond human reach, children spoke the word Earth with awe. as if it was no longer just a distant world but a beacon. In council halls, however, awe was mixed with terror. Rulers of ancient empires met in secret, their voices hushed, their hands trembling. "If one ship can do this," muttered the frail ambassador, his mandibles clicking nervously. "What happens when they build 10 or 100? They must not be allowed to expand," hissed the Vaith delegate. "If they rise further, they will eclipse us all. But if we attack again," another whispered, "we may lose everything." The Kreth tried. Now they are broken. The council, once the voice of unity, was paralyzed. Each empire was afraid to act, yet more afraid to do nothing. The galaxy had balanced on fragile treaties for centuries, but humanity had shattered that balance in a single battle. Meanwhile, aboard the Revenant, the humans themselves were not celebrating. Captain Elias Kane stood on the bridge, watching the endless stars beyond the viewport. The silence of victory weighed heavily on his shoulders. His crew whispered quietly, sharing stories of the battle, but their faces showed no joy. They had defended Earth, yes. They had saved their people. But they also knew what their victory meant. The galaxy would never see them as friends again. Kane's voice broke the silence. "We didn't ask for this. We didn't start this war, but now the whole galaxy sees us as monsters. And maybe they're right to be afraid." His words carried no pride, only sorrow. He had not wanted to become a symbol of terror. He had wanted only safety, a chance for humanity to live without chains. Yet here they were, feared by billions, worshipped by the broken, hated by the powerful. And across the stars, the whispers grew. Some prayed for humanity to protect them. Others prayed never to see them arrive. And still others plotted in silence, desperate to find a way to destroy the humans before it was too late. Terror and awe, two sides of the same coin, now defined humanity. To the weak, they were saviors. To the strong, they were nightmares, and above it all, one truth became clear. The galaxy no longer belonged to the empires. A new force had risen, a force no one could control. The galaxy was no longer the same. Everywhere the name of humanity was spoken, sometimes in whispers of fear, sometimes in songs of hope. Empires prepared their fleets, rebels raised their banners, and the Council of Races trembled in silence. The Council finally begged for talks. Delegates from 100 species demanded that humanity explain the secret of the Revenant. Some came in anger, others in desperation, but all came with fear. They wanted answers. They wanted reassurance. And deep inside, many wanted a way to destroy what they did not understand. On the bridge of the Revenant, Captain Elias Kane stood quietly, listening to the endless transmissions flooding in. His officers reported message after message. They want negotiations. They want disarmament. They want us to surrender the ship. Kane's eyes hardened. He had seen this before. The same voices that once ignored humanity's cries for help now demanded obedience. The same powers that allowed his people to suffer now trembled because humanity had finally found a way to stand tall. He stepped forward, his boots heavy on the steel floor, and gave his order. "Prepare a message. Not to one world, not to the Council, to all of them. Every star, every colony, every empire." A hush fell over the crew. They knew this was not just another broadcast. This would be history. When the transmission began, Kane's face appeared across countless worlds. Billions of eyes, alien and human alike, watched him. His voice was steady, calm, and unshaken. "People of the galaxy," he began, "you look at us now with fear. You whisper that humans should not have ships like this. You say we are too young, too reckless, too dangerous. But you forget the truth. You made us this way." His words echoed through chambers and homes alike. On distant colonies, slaves stopped working to listen. In mighty capitals, rulers leaned forward in silence. For centuries, we begged for help when raiders burned our colonies. You turned away. We cried out for justice when pirates stole our people. You ignored us. We pleaded for protection when empires bled us dry. You gave us nothing. We were alone, always alone. His eyes grew sharper, his voice heavier. So we did what humans have always done. We built. We endured. We rose. This ship you fear, this power you whisper about, it was not made for conquest. It was made because you left us no choice. We did not build it to destroy. We built it so that humanity would never kneel again. The words struck deep. On slave worlds, cheers broke out. On council floors, anger and unease grew. Cain did not stop. Do not mistake us. We are not your enemies unless you make us so. We seek no empire, no throne, no chains over others. But if you come to our worlds with fire, if you bring war to our homes, then remember this. We will not break. We will not surrender. And we will not forgive. The message ended. For a long moment, the galaxy held its breath. No one spoke. No one moved. On every world, from the smallest mining camp to the richest capital, silence filled the air. Some saw humanity as saviors, the spark of a new age. Others saw them as devils cloaked in steel. But all knew one truth. The balance of the galaxy was gone, and far away, drifting like a shadow among the stars, the Revenant waited, silent, patient, watching. The galaxy would never be the same again. And everywhere, in every corner of space, the same words were whispered with awe and terror. Humans shouldn't have ships like that.